welcome back. Here we're doing part, I guess you could say 3 or 4 on how you look at it on this core support repair on my Chevy Astro. Part 1, or just the removal of the core support. Part 2, we took and, like I say, cut rusty metal out of the core support, fabricated pieces. And in part 3, where we left off, we fabricated some more, and this is where we're going to be picking up in this video. When we left off in that one, we made these guys, which are going to be for these corners, and the one over here. If you missed the other videos, I'll be sure to include a link in the description below, and you can check my channel out. But that's what we're going to be doing, where we're picking up where we left off in the last video. Alrighty, we have the one side here clamped in place between vice grips, C-clamps of various styles. That'll be good enough there. I'm going to show you here real quick, if you missed the other videos. Just start with some stitch welds, and like I say, then piece it all together. I'm not going to show you welding the whole thing, but give you a quick demonstration, and we'll move on. Alright, quick demonstration here of what we're doing. Grab my welding torch, and just want to start. I always face it toward where the metal's overlapping. About a second break or 2 seconds in between, and then I always take, especially early on, and just like tap it down with this little hammer metal back in, and then just repeat another spot a couple inches away. And then just repeat that until we get the whole seam done. And I'll show you up close. Alrighty, there's the 2 spots started with. Like I say, I'm just going to keep doing this, finish putting this in, install the other one, and then we'll go from there. Alright, just a real quick shot. I did this to make more sense what I was talking about, but there's our little one every so often. Now you don't need the clamps in your way, and just like I say, gradually start finishing the seam up. And like I say, it's held in down there, but there we go. I just figured I'd show a little picture of this. Alright, finished welding those in, and the reason it's turned upside down on the sawhorses was to weld these in here. It was just easier than bending down since it was in a movable position. Now I'm going to take and turn it back over and finish this on the front there, this support. And you can take a look from the back side on the welds. Focus in. And the other one. Okay, let's just proceed on, little update. Alright, what we're going to do next is finish this extra bracing. Due to this is what holds it to the subframe. Now I had thought about when put this on, just putting a 90-degree bend in it with this homemade bending brake for my shop press, but it actually, if you look, it sits on a gradual curve. So I'm like, it's not going to work. So here is, right here is where I cut it off. This was a remain of the extra bracing off the original core support, and I took. Now our metal here is not as wide as what the factory was, but it don't have to be exact, but this is the piece I took and made for this. And it's going to get welded to this. I already ground the edge nice here, and ground these welds underneath down so this sits in good. And like I say, we're going to I'm going to try. It's still, on this side's not bad. It's fairly close to the core support, but back to that little bend, that's a pretty good piece in there. And I'm going to try to bend this. I marked it in this and see if I can. It just needs a slight bend. Alright, to give you a demonstration, see, this should bend this. Actually, you don't need a lot. I think it's already about all I need. We'll check it. Alright, I think mission was basically accomplished. It didn't need much. Now I'm going to set it down. I would say that is pretty close. It's closer and it'll serve the purpose. Alrighty, finished welding this in. All up around the seam. I first took and welded it to this other 1/8 inch thick piece of metal, and then I just gradually went around and worked the seam. I used the settings I was using on the welder the whole time. The 3 on the heat, and between the 20 and the 30 on the wire feed. And you can see down underneath, didn't get the light up on it. You can more or less see the outline where it was welded. So I'd say it's successful, holding good. And we're just going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Alright, got this other side, our extra bracing put in. And we're going to take, since I've been starting over here, we're going to take and make a piece out of, not the 1/8 inch, I'm one just quite frankly out of it, but I have a piece of 3/16, which is only a 1/16 less, and I'm going to bend to come down the round into about here. That's sort of how it was originally. That's going to be a little tricky, but measured, I need a 4.5 inch by 3 inch wide piece, and we'll see what we can do with this. Alrighty. We bent the metal this way and that way to come up with this. Still not the most pleased with it, but it should work. It's just going to get butted in against that piece. And like I say, weld it in. It's probably when I weld here where it's closer, I want to take and just put a little slot down there with the little cutter tool and see if I can knock it back in while it's good and hot with the punch and just gradually work it in. I knew this was going to be sort of a pain to get, like I say, but I think it's in the right idea. It probably isn't really a necessity with this, but it was, like I say, had that extra layer support there at the factory, so I'm going to try to get it something in the ballpark. Alright, I've temporarily reinstalled the core support, because after putting this extra bracing in, I wanted to be sure it still cleared the subframe, which it does. It's tight. I mean, there's not a lot of extra clearance on it. And same over here. And next we're going to pull it back off and work from the back side on this, close this in the middle of the rear side of it. But yeah, when I was putting these in, to get it to draw closer, because I sort of thought it was pretty tight clearance, I took and heated it with the torch till it was good and red, and then just worked it in with the hammer. If you don't have a torch, you could probably, like I say, just cut into it with a cutter tool and work it with a punch, but like I say, since I have the torch, that was a way to get the job done. Alrighty, give you a little demonstration on bending this with this bending brake. I did in the last video, but in case you missed it, I just put 2 marks on it. One here and one down there. That's where, but it'll still work. I just almost wasn't able to get a big enough piece of metal out of that, but I was. And I marked it here with the fat edge of the speed square, which is 7/8, but that makes a nice straight mark. You don't have to draw the line the whole way across, because we're going to sit it down on here. And like I say, this part here bends up. What we want to do is put this piece down, line our marks up with where it's going to bend, And then we are going to take and clamp this thick piece down. Make this fairly tight, and then just do the other side. Actually, I did have this mounted on a workbench, but I'm rearranging the garage. I took it off the workbench, and I haven't. Stuff like this is getting in my way of getting the garage reorganized. Okay, and then that should be good about right there. Same deal, clamp it fairly tight. And this shouldn't be too hard to bend. And then, since again it's temporary, I'm going to put my foot on this and just take the handles, bend up, and there should be our edge on it. And there we go. Okay, that's all there is to that. Alrighty, I've taken this, clamped it in where it's going to sit, but now I'm going to take and pull it back off and trim where I marked it here off the core support. And then we're going to take and do that, and we're going to take and make some holes with the punch. Alrighty, we made our holes where we're going to be doing the plug weld there across the bottom of the core support. Put some primer on this piece we're going to be welding in, and let's get it clamped and let's proceed. Alright, I'm going to take and weld these seams on both sides of this first. Alright, we finished welding those two seams and the other one. Now what I want to start doing, and I showed this in the other videos, but in case you found this one and didn't find the other one, but links will be included, we're going to do plug welds where we punched a hole, have it clamped here, give you a little quick demonstration. Alrighty, give you a quick demonstration on this. If you missed the other video, want to take, hold your gun about 90 degrees, start right in the center of your hole, and just start filling it in. And that's one of those done. Alrighty, we finished doing our plug welds across the bottom. And that nicely took and fastened this to this. Actually, as I went along, when it was hot, I tapped with the little hammer from both sides. And there's our welds from the underneath. Now what we're going to do is take and do these across here. But first I'm going to trim this extra metal. Alright, we trimmed this off like I said about, down through here and across the bottom. Now we got it clamped, and we're just going to do the plug welds like I showed earlier across the bottom. Alrighty, we finished those plug welds across. So now, what's basically left to do, besides when it gets down to it, at least myself, lots of grinding these welds. Last thing to close in is over here on the other side, is we still have to close this part in. And that's where we're going to go next. Alright, before we start closing that in on the back, I brought this back over, clamped it in the van. This is sort of, in the case of mine, it was rusted away, but instead of worrying about this little curve like they did, I don't see no real purpose, because when I use that metal shrinker stretcher, if you put anything much more than about an inch bend, which isn't going to be enough, you can't get it to work in the shrinker stretcher. So I'm thinking I'm going to just, this is going to come down, at least what I'm going to do, 90 degrees, and then we're going to be bending the piece back towards the back of the van. And I'm just going to make it long enough that, like say, it's going to come out under here. It can be trimmed in that even after it's in the vehicle. In my case, like I say, that's something there I think will work. It might in yours, it might not on what you're working on. Actually, even if you're not working on one of these vans, the principle here is similar, and you might be lucky, because like I say, one of the trickier things on this was this curved area. And like I say, not all of them. Mine I was saying, of course, first is just nice and straight across the bottom. Okay, I took a line here and drew where I'm going to remove this. I'm going to cut it out. Cut right down here, not our new metal out, of course, and then there's going to be some spot welds to drill. First I'm going to cut across this, and the spot welds are easier. I'll show you and demonstrate cutting one. I know I did in the Core Support removal video, but I haven't in this one, in case you're jumping in on this one and missed the other one. Alrighty, I took a cut across where I marked. In here I had to go get a little Dremel tool, because I accidentally, with that big 3-inch cutter tool, cut a little bit into where I didn't really want to cut, but it'll live. And here I marked our spot welds. And on those, we'll show you what to do. Alright, we want to start there, drill an 1/8 inch hole in the middle of the spot weld. I'm going to put a little bit of this cutting oil on the bits. I'm just going to spray because it's pretty fine bits. And we'll just take and put it a little bit on that. And we're going to drill this pilot hole. Close to the center of it as you can. And tighten the bit up more. Okay, there we're through. And then take spot weld cutter. Same deal, we're going to spray a little bit of this cutting oil on it. And you just want to cut through the first layer of metal, not the second. And then just go in. And that's going to take a little more. And a little more. Okay, we're through. It actually even popped away there. And that's all there is to that. Alrighty, we got this cut loose. It's out. There's where we drilled the spot welds. Here's the piece of metal I made for it. It's, in my case, needed 6 inches wide and 13 long. And I already put the first bend on it. And then we're going to bend it again. Now on this first bend, I just used this. Put 2 little marks where to bend it. You don't have to draw even the whole way across. Then that was the point there to bend at. Now, like I say, this one, it's going to be getting bent, because right now, this is going to be actually this edge, and then we need to bend it back up this way. And we'll put that in, and then we have 2 more bends out here. Already finished bending this, and I took and I marked it here on the other side where the top edge is right here, and then this is 3/4 inches wide, which this is the other mark, and we're going to take and we're going to cut it out across here. And then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Alrighty, there's our piece roughly laying in. In my case, I'm going to decide I'm going to butt weld it up to this instead of overlapping it, because it'll be holding good with these plug welds here on the other side. And I'll be honest, I did cut the metal a little short, but what we're going to do now, I took and I bent an edge on this. Just took and I cut a little slot, and I just bent it with these right. Once I find, right here. and just took and carefully bent that edge on it, about a 3/4 inch slip. And then we're going to take, I laid it here on this piece of patch metal, and what we want to do is take and cut out like these little corners here where I marked. And actually this one right here, this side's just going to go straight back. And I'm put about 5 inches extra. This is when this is in place, where it'll be welding back to the van. It can be trimmed. This should be too large, but like I say, once I get it fitted in, I am going to test fit it before going real far. Alrighty, we got our piece cut out, punched the holes in it, and I'm going to take and plug weld it to the first piece we made in this step. Do that, and we'll show you how we're going to fasten it back into the core support. Like I say, individual measurements are going to vary upon application. This is a guideline if you're doing this. Even if you're not working on a core support, ideas and that on metal shaping and how to, like I say, more or less make the what's not available. But we'll do that and we'll show you the progress. Alrighty, we got this welded together. I did the whole seam plus those plug welds. Then we're going to take, I'm going to lay it where it goes and temporarily put about 2 rivets in it there so they can be drilled out, but I want to take it over and see how it is lining up with where it's going to go into the van, be welded to it. Alright, core support temporarily clamped back in the van. Been here many times in this video series. And here's the piece temporarily. Like I say, you can see the one rivet sticking out. Eventually we're going to have to cut it out for the turn signal, sits down in there, but that's, and then we can bend the metal back. That's not really important right now, but the big key, and that's why I wanted to bring it over to the van. If you look down there, you can see it's long enough. It comes back. And the light quits falling. Yeah. And it comes back and meets into the van. And you can look here from in the, it's back into, actually past where that was rusty at the edge. You can see some of the rust needs trimmed out of the way. But it'll be more than enough to refasten this back in the van. So I'm going to go take, weld that in. I've showed the examples on the welding before. Same with this as everything else. Do little bits at a time. Do the same. Show you the completed weld. And then do the same thing on the other side. Alright, finished putting these both sides in. Made the other one just like I did the one I showed you. And I'm going to take them, we're going to, other than making it look nice, but that's, we'll get there. We'll have to take and close this in here on both sides in. And that's what we're going to work with next. Alright, I'm closing these corners then. I got a piece of 16 gauge metal. I had my 18 that I've been patching with, and then I had a piece of 1/8 inch, which was sort of overkill. I went yesterday, did a little shopping at my metal shop there where I get stuff, and I got this piece of 16 gauge metal. And it just bent in my bending brake there where I used with the sharp press the whole way across the width of it. Okay, took and put this on, and this is going to be sitting up against this. Now what I want to do, and I already measured it, is take and put another bend out this way, 2 1/4 inches down. This is 2 1/4 inches. Alright, put this other bend in it. We'll be cutting it off across here where I marked it. But just sort of a little example here. I just thought it was easier to bend before cutting in this case. Yeah, it'll be sitting down in between those pieces. Like I say, we'll cut this. And alright, the extra metal's cut off. Got it temporarily sitting in here. Myself, I'm going to take and run plug welds. Now how I determine where to go, I left it in here because again, this I'm not going to be able to use the punch tool, they're too far in. Is I took a marker and drew where the top edge of the metal was, and then same on the other side, and then I just drew a line out across there using a square, straight edge, and then came down the width of the metal, and then I just put here where I am going to drill it. And same thing on the other top of it. Now this one I couldn't get the bottom line drawn, it was too tight in there, but I drew the one across the top and then just sort of took my hand and felt where, and I marked where to put it. So I'm going to go take and put some 3/16 inch holes in this, and then we're going to do the plug welds. Alrighty, our holes are drilled. I have a clamped here each side of the first one I'm going to do, and there's the holes drilled on the lower side. I'm going to do those and we'll show you that. Alrighty, we did the plug welds on the top of it and here on the bottom, and I decided, this is up to you, maybe it's overkill, but this is going to be exposed to the elements. I did the whole seam, lower and top there. Now I'm just going to repeat the same on the other side. Alrighty, we finished welding the left side in just like we did the right. Same deal, I did the whole seam and the plug welds. Okay, we're nearing completion on this. There's just a few more things here going to build in here using the 16 gauge metal, like a plate that comes out and down to around in here just for a little extra support, since this is where it is bolting to the subframe. Alrighty, took a piece of the 16 gauge metal that I have left here. It was a 12 inch by 12 inch piece I started with, but till making these and till done with this, it's pretty much going to kill it off. But I took and laid this like right there at that corner down straight, and then pulled it down. And what we want to do, and that's the marker, is follow the contour of this in here as near as we can. I'm going to go cut that out with my cutter tool, and then we're going to have to put a bend in it next. Okay, cut that slot out with the, between the Dremel tool and my 3-inch cutter tool. Lay it in here. Now it's still not fitting real tight yet, because it's hitting here where we welded in to hold the nut where it holds to the core support. But before I worry about that, I'm going to take, mark it right here on this edge. And I'm going to take it over and bend it. Alright, we put the bends in, and now it's hitting here in the corner. So I'm going to take where I marked and trim it a little bit and see if we can get it to fit back a little tighter in here. Next. Alright, cut that out, and it's getting almost satisfactory, but it's still hitting right here, and I'm just going to take and cut like this little notch out, and that should move us back a little bit more. Alright, got that. I'm pleased on that now. Now the only thing I want it to slide down a little closer, I'm going to take and trim a little notch out here and right there so it slides down, and then it can just be welded, which is already this thicker plate, and that definitely will close that up. Alright, did some cutting, grinding, fabricating, but I'm real happy now how that's sitting against that edge, and that can just be welded right together. So we're going to take and clamp this in, weld it, and do the same on the other side. And as far as making this little edge and the fine-tuned grinding, I used a combination of a Dremel tool with a more aggressive cutting wheel on it and my electric 3-inch cutting tool. Alrighty, got these welded in on both sides. And what we're down to next is where the radiator's set. That I did. Before I even tacked that in, I brought the radiator over, set it in, and brought the shroud. And these lines up, which is fine here, and this one in the middle. But this one wasn't lining up, and I looked where I put my patch. This where the AC condenser bolts is keeping it from going down. Alrighty, this is what I meant. Cut these out, right in here, one on each side. Now this up in here was never tampered with. That's still the factory. I didn't have to do anything, but on this one, our metal came up, I had to trim out some. And then on the rear of this, I took temporarily to weld them in and riveted our brackets for the radiator, and then they'll weld them up. And this is what the holes are for, is these stick out through. And we'll temporarily install this. Alrighty, there's those supports set in there, brackets, like I say, temporarily just riveted, but it's where they belong, and the other one here. And then this upper part of the shroud now. Okay, these of course sit against the top of the radiator, right here where the tank meets. I just want to set that in, push it down in, push it in, and now our three holes are lining up. So we're going to go weld these radiator brackets in. Alright, these brackets got them welded in. I did the whole way around the same. If you go back and look at some of the previous pictures on the disassembly of this in the earlier videos, this was all rusted here, and I think a pretty good reason was how they just had it spot welded and moisture and that laid under it. And same here. I left our rivets in. If it bothers you, drill it and fill it with. Alright, before we turn this over and look from the back side, there's just a picture of the radiator. I got it bolted in place. And you can see on what I was talking about earlier, why we had to cut out, this is where the AC condenser's going to bolt. Now we roll this back over, and on the back side, like I say, I put all these bolts in across. But then, and I put one bolt each that holds the two halves of the shroud together. But then down here, I don't think it's going to take much. This lower shroud hooks into this. See, this was actually, when I took it apart, was just hanging loose there. It was rusted loose where it hung, but it hooks into this bottom part of the shroud. There's a hook there and one here. But when I go to push it in place, I can get the one side, but then the other one pops out. But I think actually we'll try it here. We're just taking, I want to trim about 1/4 of an inch out across here. Alrighty, took and did cut probably about 1/4, probably about 1/8 inch. I took about the width of the cutter blade there on the angle grinder. And then the rest of it, I just kept going a little bit at a time with the angle grinder. And now it takes, hooks on knees on the shroud. There we go. And you can bring it down. It's still a little bit of a snug fit. This one here is being stubborn. Yeah, I don't really want to take any more off. There it goes. And like I say, we can spot weld, but yeah, it's hooked into the shroud and it comes down and around. And like I say, I'm going to be drilling a hole right up in here. They were left stuck in this, but what held that on at the bottom was these clips like these. All right, getting down here, I took and I saved these rusty pieces that we cut out and just drew around, and I'm just going to take that. I probably have to cut the Dremel tool. That's a pretty sharp angle around. Cut that out where I marked with the marker and put a little bit of a lip on it. It's not going to be exactly like it was, and then just do that for both sides. Alrighty, took this one, cut it, and bent this edge on it. And what I mean by bending the edge, I did show this in the other video, but how I did that, actually it's not perfect, but it'll serve the purpose. I find works nice is using a crescent wrench, and be sure one that closes tight. Not all of them do, but this one does, and then just take and work in here on that. Go in one about probably 3/8 of an inch, and then just bend up, loosen a little bit, go gradually a little bit at a time. Then here. And then just keep working at it a little bit till you get it as nice as you can. Like I say, it's not going to be perfect, but and I'll show you what I did so far. And like I say, I didn't demonstrate that in case you didn't see the earlier video. Demonstrated that some, but see, it's already starting to get curvature to it. Like I say, it's not gonna, I can't do the double like here with how I'm doing this, but it'll work. Put this back in with the vice grips, and I want to just be sure everything was fitting good with all the welding and fabricating. And as you can see, temporarily put the metal bumper and the plastic cover over it and the grill in, and everything seems to be lining up good. I mean, there's some room for some tweaking when it goes together, but like I say, it's going to go. What I was sort of concerned about was right down in here. I knew it was fairly tight fit. Just make sure, like I say, didn't make anything too large or anything, and it still was going to go together, and looks good. I wish it was actually this far back together, really back together, but now we get to take it back out. And we know the radiator fits. We did that over on the benches. So we're pretty much down soon to just making this look nice. At least I want to. Ready to make this look nice. I'm gonna throw my trusty face shield on. And then I start here. I have two grinders. If you don't, you can just switch wheels. I always start with this 24 grit rough grinding one, and I'll just demonstrate a small spot. Alrighty, that's not too bad. Just basically let the grinder do the work, like I say, and then I'll go over each one of them with this flapper disc, 36 grit. And like I say, I'll do this on all the welds on it. Some places I'll have to, like I say, use that cutoff tool with the weld at tight corners, but that you'll just, each particular application, different circumstances, and then just what you want to have. Like I say, finish doing these, and then we'll go do the next step. Like I say, you don't have to, you could actually quit with it like this if you wanted, but this work, I want it to look decent, that it's not obviously been repaired. And already ground all the welds. Show you a little bit. This is sort of the end result you're looking for. And I run the flapper disc over all the bare metal. Like I say, just the real coarse one I only used on the welds, but the flapper disc I roughed it all up. And you can see it's looking. And here's a view of around the back where I ground the welds down. And take here, and we'll just stand back and sort of get a, there's what it looks like from the rear all together. And front shot of it. Alrighty. Now, we've made all sorts of dust and dirt and that on this. So we want to take some of this wax and grease remover and 2 rags, and just take and put a nice liberal amount on one. And set it there, and then just start wiping it down. Just do a little bit at a time, and then take your other rag and then just go back over the area till it's dry, and then just repeat that on the, I'm going to do, even where I didn't do the body work, the whole core support, clean it up good, and then we'll do the next step. Alrighty, we cleaned this all up. Now we're going to make some dirt again, but not as bad as the welding and that. I'm going to take dual action sander, 100 grit paper. You can use 80 to like 120 for this, and you can also use just like an electric palm sander, and we just want to go over our bare metal surfaces. That's sort of about the results you're looking for. Just put the little fine marks. And now with this point, on this bare metal, you should try avoiding touching it with your bare fingers right now, so you don't get oil and that on it and cause rust. Alrighty, finished our sanding. Wiped it down again. Now I'm going to take and coat all the bare metal with this filler primer, aerosol from Harbor Freight. This, as far as over bare metal, as far as aerosol primers, is one of the best I've found. I mean, you could mix. As far as over bare metal, epoxy primer is what the big thing to use if you wanted to go buy it and mix it. But I'd say for this application, just shake it up about 2 minutes and apply about 2 coats. You can don't need to let long, and then just take and just back and forth. And like I say, just repeat that in about 5 minutes and do all the surfaces, and we'll show you the completed picture with it all primed. Alright, there is the complete metal work done, primed, ready for finishing core support. There's from the front, and we'll walk around here and we'll take a look at the rear of it. Okay, and there we go. Give you a little bit of close-up. I say you can see our welding that's going to be finished off in the next video. But compared to the mess started with, it's all one piece again. And like I say, don't look real bad, and it'll serve the purpose. Alright, thanks for watching this video. Like I say, this is part 4 in the series of core support reconstruction. From not really a lot left to build with. Be sure to put links to the other videos in this one, and we'll have one more step on this. Again, you could quit on this if you wanted, but it's going to be sealing these seams off, doing some sanding, a little body work, making it look good, and putting some paint on it.